When I was a kid, I had lots of energy. I remember I just remember being really energetic and always just wanting to run around, mess around, play with stuff. And I also remember I really loved Legos as a kid, and I still love Legos now. I remember back after Christmas or my birthday, if I would get a Lego set, I would stay up for hours until I completed it because I would never want to leave the project unfinished. And getting Legos just always made me so happy. It really just made my day to get a new Lego set. When I was a kid, I played a few sports. So first I had a soccer phase. I wanted to go out and try soccer. I think I tried for one of the YMCA teams. But I remember I ended up quitting that sport because I was always I was too scared to run into that group of people and go get the ball for myself. I just remember always being too scared to do that. So after I quit soccer, my dad had been coaching a basketball team, and I decided, hey, why not? I'll try out for some basketball. And these were my elementary school years. So I tried out for some basketball, but I also ended up quitting that sport because I didn't like during a game, everybody in the bleachers and stands, everybody just watching me. Even if they were cheering for me, I didn't like to have that kind of feeling. So yeah, I ended up quitting both of those sports. But I do remember in elementary school, I loved to play kickball. I would just go out there during recess, play some kickball with my friends. It was always a great time. I miss those days a lot. So yeah, you could definitely say that I was sort of the antisocial type of kid growing up. I think I've kind of come out of that shell a little bit now, but I still am just a little bit antisocial. It depends on who I'm talking to. If I'm with my friends, I'm fine. If it's with somebody I don't know, I'm definitely going to be a little more, I'm not as open to talk to them because, hey, I don't know you, so why should I open up my whole life story to you? Once I got into middle school, 8th grade specifically, I hadn't been playing any sports or really thinking about sports even up until that point. My parents told me, hey, you should go out, try a sport for, get ready for high school maybe. So, I just started looking at my options. You had football, soccer, basketball. I already gone through those things, and I knew that I wasn't good at any of them, and I wasn't interested in playing any of those sports. Then I came across another sport, cross country caught my eye. It was well, it's just running, how hard can it be? So I thought to myself, well, I might as well just go out and try this, see what happens. And I ended up sticking with it. I like cross country a lot, actually. It really helps me stay in shape, and it's a really fun sport. It's really built around team, just your team and your sportsmanship. And I'm still playing the sport to this day. And actually, next year, my senior year in high school, I'm hoping to make it out to state in cross country. Now, another sport that I also took up in high school my freshman year, after cross country season is over, I didn't want to go and play track because track really, it didn't suit me. I tried it in middle school and it really wasn't for me. I didn't like, going out and running one event, then waiting like, I don't know, 30 minutes to like an hour for your next event. And honestly, it was just kind of a boring sport overall to me. So I decided to try out for golf. Me and my friend Tyler, we went out for golf and we actually ended up really enjoying it. And we're still playing to this day as well. What is your most fond memory of me as a child?
Well, let's see. Geoffrey always loved trains, so you were a very organized collector of Thomas the Train and putting your sets together and learning how to do Legos. You want to do it all by yourself, which is fine, and you always did a good job with that. When you were much younger, learning to talk, one of your favorite words was chocolate, that you needed a chocolate. You always wanted a chocolate. So that's how I knew you were my kid. And let's see, some of the best memories we have or that I have of Geoffrey are he always wanted to include his friends in everything he was doing. So he always wanted to have lots of friends come over and make sure that they were all having fun, and very loyal to his friends and family. And he's even included his sister as much as he could in different activities that he's doing. But not all the time. You gotta have a little bit of a barrier there. But very good friend, very good at putting things together and taking them apart, very good at communicating with others, even at a very young age. So always liking his routine. Does not like to have his routine changed, even when he was like 2 years old, because you would freak out and scream if we changed when it was time to eat or anything like that, especially around food. Food is very important, still is. And even when you were a baby, you hated things that were wet. You did not like wet things. You didn't like to touch wet things. Still not a fan of wet, I'm sure, but you did take swimming lessons, so we got you through that a little bit. I can't remember how old you were. You were pretty little, either 3 or 4, and you always played with Graceland's Barbie piano, and it was hot pink or bright pink or something. And she never did, and so that's why we got you piano lessons before her, so that we could get you off of the Barbie piano and get you onto a real piano, which you still play even now. So, taking your sister's stuff and using it, and that was a sign to us that maybe we should get you into some piano lessons, and I'm so glad we did, because Geoffrey is an amazing piano player, and he even likes to do digital music now, so it's led to some pretty cool things, and of course trumpet, so there you go.
When Geoffrey was younger, and we had a backyard over on South Jefferson Street, and we bought this trampoline and put it in the backyard. And me and Geoffrey, just like every day, we'd be out there jumping on the trampoline, and I would jump in the middle, and he would fly up in the air. And never killed himself or broke a leg or anything. So, but we had a lot of fun. And then Graceland would get on the trampoline, and we'd just make up these games and pretend to be animals, or pretend that there was a forest fire. I would just do all kinds of crazy things. And I think that trampoline cost about $200, and we got, 1,000 miles of use out of that thing. We jumped on it until it wore out. That was kind of a sad day when we took that thing down. That was an end of an era. But kids got too big for it. But we played on that thing all the time.
What is one of your earliest memories of the Penn family?
Well, a lot of the Penn family grew up, or at least when I was a kid, in a vase. So Grandma and Grandpa were in a vase. My aunts and uncles, they all lived together on a tract of land out in the vase. But my dad actually moved to Mexico, so we were like the weird ones that lived in Mexico. But my grandpa had land, country. He was a farmer, and I guess one of my earliest memories of the Penn family was we would go out there, out into the country in a vase, and play around in the barns, around the machinery. Grandpa would let us ride in the back of the pickup. He'd put the tailgate down and we'd hop on the back and he'd drive around the farm to check on the cattle and the pigs. And I don't know, that was always a good time. He was always had some great big gardens that I remember Grandma Penn used to, she had a green thumb and she could grow anything out there. My cousins were all out there, Greg and Chad, Ricky and Rita, and I can't remember them all. They were all out there. And so when we would go out there, it would be like a family reunion, basically.
What did the Penn family do when you were growing up?
My grandpa was a farmer. He had a farm out in the Vaz. Him and Grandma farmed. And my uncle, actually both my uncles, I think, worked at the refractories here in town. My dad was the only one that of his family that was college educated. He made it to college and came back to Mexico and was a teacher at Mexico High School. He did a ton of jobs. I think he worked at Sears as a fence installer. He worked in a mortuary, I think, at one point. And then he ended up in the financial world at Kaiser Credit Union, which then became National Credit Union, or Show Me Credit Union. And then before that change, he actually moved over, I think it was called Greenco Credit Union, and which is now today United Credit Union. So most of my life growing up, he was the president of one of those two credit unions. So that was kind of cool, where I got to have some experience in the financial world and go to some of the conferences with him, and he taught me a lot about money management and how to make money, or how to not make money, but how to track money and keep a checkbook accountant and all that good stuff. Mom was a teacher at the high school, or at the Votech, and that's the only job I remember her having. So she would have her summers off and to be with us, and during the school year she was at the Votech. Actually, I was one of her students. I got to be in her computing class, and actually my study hall was in her class too in my senior year.
Where did you live as a kid?
When I was born, my parents lived on Arcadia Street. I don't really remember that because they quickly moved out to the country. We lived 2 miles north of Mexico on Highway 15. And they bought about 15 acres out there because my sister wanted to have horses. So Dad built her a big metal barn, and we had horses out there, and we loved it, man. We got to roam around in the woods, made trails. We had a big creek that flowed back there. We would go back during the summertime and catch crawdads, and just, I mean, it was just great. And my best friend lived on the adjoining field was his property, so I would walk up to his house through the woods and through the cornfield. Our yard was narrow and long, so we could play kickball and football. Had plenty of yard space to do all of that. We lived right across the highway. It was called Sweet Lassie Feed and Seed, and we would go there in the summertime, all of us, all of our friends, and they would have these ice cold Pepsis in the bottles that we would sit on these. I just remember sitting on these sacks of seed and feed, and we'd be just chugging our Pepsis on a very hot summer day. Lived out there until I was in junior high, and about that time we moved into town on Concordia Street, where that was on a cul-de-sac. Learned, made new friends, learned new things, did different things. So life really changed at that point for us.
One of my favorite memories with Geoffrey was this past summer. He moved into his new house, and me and Ella came over, and the basement was still empty because they had just got the house. So we had a speaker, and we played music for a really long time, and we had an insanely long dance party that was way better than any dance I've ever been to. And it was a pretty good time. I had a lot of fun. And we made, well, not we, but Geoffrey made a YouTube video out of it, and it was like a 40-minute long YouTube video.
I have a lot of cool memories with Jeff. Quite a whole lot. because Jeff's a pretty cool guy. But I'd say one of the best memories I've ever had was at one of his birthday parties. We went to his grandparents' house and had a nice Nerf war, and it got really intense, and we like ran into different fields and stuff. It was really fun, and eventually we just had to stop and make a truce and eat his barbecue and then wish him happy birthday, and he got a bunch of cool Legos and stuff. That was last year, so yeah, that was a cool birthday and a cool memory of Jeff's.
The time 2 summers ago that we cooked June bugs over the fire in a Starbucks Frappuccino bottle.
What happened the night of the explosion?
Well, it was really early in the morning. I might have slept through it, but my wife woke me up, Shauna, and we lived over by Presser Hall in town. And the sky was red, and this huge roaring sound, like a jet engine had just crashed, or a train cargo container had exploded or something. So we just really didn't know. Like everybody else in Mexico, we didn't know what had happened, and we were kind of panicking and figuring out where we should go. We knew that it was from the north because we could see the light brighter on the north side. The kids and Shauna headed south toward my parents' house, and I hopped in the pickup truck. I think because maybe I had a bad feeling that I knew that it was close to where we were building our house. At first I thought it was the MFA plant, which is down the street. As I got closer to there, I thought maybe it was the high school. As I got closer to there, it was out on Highway 15. And I didn't drive out here, but I found a place to park kind of by, at the edge of Jefferson Street. Watch, and I turned on the police scanner, and I heard him talking about a house that was under construction that had just, so I kind of pieced it together and knew that it was ours. So that's, and you know, obviously we couldn't come here because of all the law enforcement, and it had burned. It was still burning for quite some time, and then it started snowing, which is very odd. And I drove down this gravel road behind our property, and sheriff's guy let me come through because he knew who I was and that it was my property, and ended up driving around and back just to kind of get as close as I could. Never really saw the property until later that day when we had to come back to but it was a complete loss.
What was going through your head whenever this all happened?
What was going through my head? I think just the fact that we were so close to the house being finished. It had a roof on it almost completely. We would have been moving in within maybe a month or so. We would have been living there had the weather not been so bad in the wintertime. You know, those kind of things, just as that was happening, it was kind of a sense of relief that we weren't there, obviously, but also just kicked in the stomach. It's like something that you would invested your life into for a year was just gone, just vanished.
Right behind me here, you can see my family's house foundation, or at least what's left of it. You see, about 1 year ago, there was a fatal pipeline explosion on my family's property. Now, this was really impactful to my life because I had been out to the house foundation many times before this explosion happened, just to check on the progress of the work. And not only that, the house was nearly complete. And would we not have had really bad winter weather, we would have been living in that house and we would have all died in the pipeline explosion. Now, the company who's behind this pipeline explosion is Panhandle Eastern, and they've actually had, when we researched this company, they've had multiple incidents in the past of pipeline explosions, which just made it even worse for us. They did end up everything ended up getting settled in the end, and we got our money back for all of our losses. But it's still it's crazy to think about, if the explosion had happened 1 month later, that I wouldn't be alive on this earth today. While not much is known about how the pipeline sparked and exploded, I can tell you one thing. While Panhandle Eastern might not admit it, they know that it's cheaper to let a pipeline blow up and destroy millions of dollars worth of state and personal property than to go out and replace that pipeline in order to keep everybody safe, obviously. Now, it's just sickening to know that, and know that big multi-billion-dollar corporations like them don't care too much about other people and things being destroyed, because I guarantee you that it costs more to put a new pipeline in the ground than to just pay off a few $1 million in highway damages and less than $1 million in property and house damage.